Hi guys, it's Lily,
And this is Clover.
and welcome back to
All the tea we cannot sip.
good evening, Clover.
Hello, Lily. You and I were just sitting here shooting the shit before our podcast, and we figured, well, we might as well record it
Yes,
because we were
because
talking about talk shows from the 90s.
yes, and how I brought up that we didn't really talk about them and how good they were. It
Oh,
was,
I know, we barely touched on it. I feel like we could do a whole episode on that too. Have you ever heard about that Jenny Jones episode that ended in murder?
yes,
Oh,
that is so good. So sad, but I mean,
very sad. But
it
when we're
was good
talking about
television.
tea, it's hot.
Yes, it is. It was good television. Not just that one, but all of them, I think. And I remember the first time I ever saw like a rap performance was on like Ricky Lake, and it was Juvenile Back That Ass Up.
That is
Yeah,
hilarious.
which I didn't know that Lil Wayne was on that song until today. I was looking up Lil Wayne for something, and that he was on that song.
Oh, crap. That's
Yeah,
a coincidence. I didn't
I
know
know.
either.
He was like part of a group called Hot Boys in 1999.
Was he really young?
He had to have been because he's not
Right?
that old now.
Wow. I did hear, I remember hit a recording of him talking about how he got into the music scene really young, but that's a whole other dark,
Yes.
a whole other dark path to unravel someday. The first time I ever saw when we were younger, they said hermaphrodite. Intersex is the more appropriate term now, but back then they said hermaphrodite. Um, the first time I ever even heard of that was I was homesick from school in elementary school and was watching Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yes, and I mean, everything was a lot less politically correct because they would say like transvestite and
Mm-hmm.
tranny, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't really say those words I mean, I don't say them ever, but as a society, we don't say them much
Right.
anymore, which I'm glad because there are correct terms that
I
are
know it
more
makes me
known.
think, what offensive stuff are we saying that someday our grandkids will be like, oh my God, you won't believe what my grandma said.
Oh,
She's so racist, or she's so conservative.
oh gosh,
I don't
that
know.
makes me shudder.
Oh,
But
but yes. So last week we really got into the early 2000s.
yes, and I wanted to take back something I said last week, how I said that music is not as objectifying because I got my car back after it has been out of commission. I hit a deer before Thanksgiving and they just got around to I was just able to get it fixed. So I don't turn the music up really loud in my husband's car because I want to respect his speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was listening to podcasts, but I was listening to music and I was, searching Apple Music for all my favorite songs, and they are very, very dirty. So I was like, I was very wrong. They are very objectifying still.
Well, we embrace you and forgive you, but I was wondering what you were smoking when you said that.
It's
But
because,
maybe, do you just listen to music from 2000 to 2015?
did you just call me out?
No. Well, I only watch stuff from like TV shows from that era. So,
Yeah. I think about 2018
hmm,
is what I listen to the most. Like, 2000 to 2018 is what I listen to the most. But yeah,
I don't blame you
2015 was a good year. There was some
for,
great
yeah,
music.
especially for the music you like.
Yes. Ugh, but yeah, I was able to turn it up. My watch was telling me it was too loud. I didn't care.
That's so funny. I listen to everything so softly.
Music is the only thing I can turn up really loud because if the
Hmm.
TV is too loud, I feel like people are yelling at me.
Hmm.
And so I turn it I we always have the subtitles on. I don't know. It's something my brother does too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I do have the subtitles when I watch usually, but that is because I listen to it so quiet.
But I actually have really good hearing because when my husband is asleep, I'll turn the TV down to like 3 and I can hear it.
It's funny that you have really good hearing and you love listening to it so loud because I feel like I have hard of hearing. And I told my doctor, and she said everything looks fine. But ever since COVID, like 2020, I feel like I don't hear as well. But I listen to it quiet. You'd think I would listen to it louder.
Which is actually kind of nice because you know when old people get old and they turn up
Mm-hmm.
things really loud and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my gosh." But I
What?
have
Oh,
really good hearing. I always have. Like my mom used to call me sonar ears because I could hear like people whispering.
that's good.
Yeah, like my coworker was on the phone and I could hear her conversation both sides because she had her
Anything
phone turned
good?
up. Not really. Not that time. I don't know.
Darn
I
it.
can just because I keep my phone low enough so I know other people can't hear it.
That is a peeve of mine when people do that. But when I talk on the phone with somebody, it's always on speakerphone. Like I'll go to my room or I'll go outside so I'm not disturbing my family. And so I have privacy. But I don't know. I think I'm afraid of getting cancer or something if I hold my phone to my ear too much.
I do talk a lot with my AirPods in,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's a different kind of cancer because of the Bluetooth, but
I wasn't gonna go there.
who knows? It's still fairly new technology in the grand scheme of things.
Well, shoot, we will get into cancer in the 2000s because I forgot about something that happened. So we last week we talked about the early 2000s from 2000 to 2004, and we realized it was just too much for one podcast.
It was. The last 2 podcasts have been over 2 hours, and that's my whole commute each day. I drive an hour each way, so we thought we would break it this one into two. So we're going to talk about 2005 to 2007, and then next time we're going to talk about 2008, 2009, and maybe a little bit of 2010 because got to throw some things that happened then in. So get ready because the 2000s were crazy, and we're going to continue to talk about them.
Yes, there was some years we felt like not a lot happened, but there was still so much we couldn't fit in
Yes.
that there
And
will be plenty of tea.
yes, I know some like I kept thinking of things that happened of years that we already talked about back to like the 90s and the early 2000s. And I'm like, damn, but realistically, I think we have a good range of things that happened, and I'm having
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fun reminiscing and talking about them.
Me too.
Well, let's just dive right in. We're going to start at 2005. What did you find for 2005?
I was thinking how personally 2005 kind of sucked for me.
As I was looking up stuff from 2005 to 2008 and 2009 were better, but 2005 to 2007 were not very good years for
I
me
feel the same way.
and I love thinking about the things that happened during that time, like the music and the movies, but
Mm-hmm.
just I'm like, oh, yeah, this was going on when this happened, and it was just a lot.
Yeah, not only were we going through a lot in our family lives, but I feel like just the world around us in general was depressing and confusing. And we were at an age where we were becoming like more woke and more um, in the
Aware.
loop of, yeah, more aware. That's a perfect word. More aware of the problems of the world, but we were still underage and feel so powerless to actually make change.
Yes. Oh,
And people still treat teenagers that way. I stopped being friends with this guy who my husband has been friends with for like 20 years probably because I remember after one of our many school shootings in the past couple of years. The students protested and were calling for gun control. And he, the father of three, was like, we're going to let people who can't even legally drink make gun laws. I'm like, wow, just teach your kid. And I commented too. I said, do you want your children to grow up and think that they aren't smart or aren't worthy just because of their age? I said, at what age will you listen to their opinions?
And there are people that can't legally drink or smoke that go to war.
Exactly.
So that is so invalid.
And you can get permission to join the military before you're even 18.
Yes, I've known people that have done that
And you
and
still wouldn't be able to buy cigarettes or vote,
or vote. Yeah. You don't even have any say on the people that are leading you, basically.
right? It's terrible. So, yeah, 2005 to 2007, I feel like a lot of people were feeling that way.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like the generations before us, um, Gen X and the boomers, they were very about kids being seen and not heard.
Yeah,
And I think we definitely grew up with that. And so it was definitely hard being, that age and not being able to really have a voice.
so true. Well, the first thing I have for 2005 was at the end of January, Condoleezza Rice became the first African American Secretary of State. Not even just first African American female, but the first African American Secretary of State, which is pretty awesome.
That is very awesome.
I remember I had a comic that I had clipped out of the Sunday newspaper. Can't remember what it was about, like girls worshiping princesses and stuff. And on this girl's wall was Condoleezza Rice. And that stuck with me all this time.
That's
Like it did give
really
people hope.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah,
because 2005, I don't feel was that long ago.
I know. Like in my head, it was like 8 years ago. No, it wasn't. We're
I
just
know.
getting old.
I know. I was saying I need Botox today.
Botox.
Yeah. Oh,
It's worth trying.
I know. I think I wouldn't probably ever get filler anywhere, like lips or cheeks or because I like my face. I think it just
Mm-hmm.
could be a little bit better. Just a tiny bit, just a little more firm. And I think I can achieve that with Botox.
Totally. And it doesn't last forever if you don't like the results.
Yeah, that's very true. And I'm scared of the things that they put in you, like filler. Or like I don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
is, and there's horror stories and I
I know people who don't look great.
me too.
Mm-hmm.
hmm well, this one is pretty big, but it's not as big as Condoleezza Rice. But YouTube was founded in 2005.
Yes.
And
February 15th.
yes, I read a couple weeks ago on something completely related. I was looking up Super Bowl halftime shows. It was actually founded so that they could share the Justin Timberlake Janet Jackson Super Bowl halftime moment.
Really?
That was like one of the main reasons because I don't know who created
Oh,
it.
because they were trying to eradicate it.
Yes,
Did that happen in 2005, the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake? We didn't even talk about that. That's
that,
amazing. I've never heard that's why YouTube was opened, but it makes sense.
because I was looking up best and worst halftime shows ever, and that was on one of the lists.
Because I do remember after that, like the FCC and other censorship got a lot stricter because it was live and there wasn't a delay like they do now.
Yes, it actually
And
happened in 2004.
okay, so YouTube still,
It took a little bit for it to get up and running, I think. because
I think that's so like something I would think of but probably not have the coding skills to do. Like just be so annoyed that people were trying to cover up the truth about something. I'm just gonna open a whole ass website. Remember when we were gonna buy the URL for that guy
yeah, we
so
still
that he
should.
couldn't?
We still should. Why not?
Yeah, it's not too late.
That's the T.
That's petty.
Ooh, that's my middle name. One time I was talking about something and my husband was like, "You don't have to be so petty all the time." And I was like, I laughed and I was like, "Do you even know me?" It's like, "Yes, yes, I do." It gives me joy. To those who deserve it. I'm not petty just to be petty. When people need it, I can be petty. Oh,
YouTube is amazing though. I'm on it every day, so I'm so glad it exists. And it was so cool when it came out.
I know. I remember two things that I really remember. They probably didn't come out in 2005, but very, very close to that was My Hands Are Bananas. If you've never seen it, you should look it up.
I'll look it up right now.
And also Shoes.
Shoes. Let's
Let's
get some
get some
shoes.
shoes. And sometimes I say that when I'm just putting on my shoes for the day. I'll be like, these shoes rule.
These
These shoes
shoes
suck.
suck.
Oh, so
I bet we could show a clip of that on our on this episode too for people who don't know what we're talking about.
yes, it was just so pivotal. Like,
Hands are bananas.
my hands are bananas. Does it say when that came
The
out?
haircut. Oh my God, it's so early 2000s.
Yes, it's so funny. I don't know. My mom used to hate it because she thought it was creepy, but
It just looks like a teenage guy having fun making videos.
oh my gosh, I just looked. It came out 16 years ago.
Jeez. And it only has 8.3 million views, which is a lot of views, but I feel like if it went viral 10 years later, he would have got a lot more
Yeah,
because it's probably been taken and posted to other YouTubes a lot too.
it probably has. It came out in 2006.
Wow. Oh, another YouTube classic, The Potter Puppet Pals.
Yes.
Dumbledore. Snape, Snape,
Snape.
Severus
Severus
Snape.
Snape. Oh,
Oh man, the people at home listening. We're
oh.
just reenacting the Potter Pals. We'll get back on track.
Shoes has 68.8 million views. So that one was a
Wow.
lot. That one did go really viral.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, YouTube. I spent a lot of time on YouTube during the pandemic
I don't blame you at all.
because I was not working at the time
Yeah,
and
crazy times.
it gave me so much joy. And there's so many creators I just admire, and especially some of the OG ones who have been on YouTube for 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dedication. But even watching some old Shane videos, I'm like, how are these 6 years old?
Right.
I'm like, Jesus, time's going so fast. Oh,
So let's see. The next thing I had, I've never heard of the movie 40 Shades of Blue. Have you?
no.
It came out in 2005 and it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, I believe, and it won the grand prize that year. So it must have been really popular. I've never heard of it. The only reason it caught my eye was because I wondered, is that where 50 Shades of Grey kind of got their name? So I looked up the synopsis, and it's about this Russian woman living in Memphis who gets engaged to this older guy who's like a very famous music producer. And he has a son who he has like a tumultuous relationship with, and they end up hooking up. Basically, like it says they have a dangerous and passionate love affair. So I'm
Wow.
like, I wonder if 50 Shades was a nod to that movie.
Or did she just rip off two different things?
Oh my God. Now we need to watch this movie and see, did she blend Twilight in this? Because this was
Because,
years before.
and if it won the Sundance Film Festival, it has to be something that movie creators know about.
Right, because she worked in television before she wrote 50 Shades. And she's British, so I don't know. I feel like they probably watch artsy movies more.
Probably.
Oh, is that racist?
I don't think so. I think it's an observation. Because
So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then
yeah,
later that month, Charles and Camilla of Great Britain got engaged.
King Charles now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that. I've
Same.
never liked her. She's not cute.
I'm so torn because I feel like angry that he went on and married Diana and didn't stand up for himself or stand up for Camilla if she really was his true love. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, everyone deserves to be happy. And she does look like a horse face, though.
But have you heard the conspiracy that, like, they basically had Diana killed because he
Yes.
could not have gotten remarried if she was alive?
Mm-hmm.
And I
I
know that
have
there
heard that.
was, you know, 8 years, give or take, in between them getting married and her death. And
But
maybe it
not
was
them
an
getting
accident.
together.
No, because I think when you're at that level, you have to do things properly. And, even though they weren't doing things properly because he was already divorced and she was too.
And I don't think Charles had her killed. I don't even like if that conspiracy is true at all. I don't think he did it, and I don't even think necessarily the queen did it. But the monarchy has so many loyal employees.
Yeah,
They have so many bodyguards, so many like media people and they know so many powerful people in Britain who I'm sure could easily have someone killed.
that's very true. I'm not putting blame on anyone
Right.
also because like I said, it's just a conspiracy theory
It
and
is.
there are
It,
crazy ones and there are ones that conspiracy theories that are not so crazy. But
right.
that one I think is a little crazy because you can't pinpoint who actually did it.
I do think most likely it probably was the paparazzi chasing them into this tunnel and having so many flashing lights trying to get a picture that the driver, who did have alcohol in his system, crashed. I do, that is what I personally believe, but I do think the the monarchy wasn't upset about it. They're like, cool, solve this problem for us.
No, because I've heard a lot of, I know the paparazzi can be very invasive everywhere, but I've heard some horror stories about them in Europe.
Yes.
Like,
Well, and we'll get into this because Lily and I are planning on doing, instead of March Madness, we'll do Memoir Madness. And we're going to read a bunch of memoirs and talk about it in March, different ones each week. So we're going to post that to our social media if you want to read them along with us and join the discussion. But I'm reading The Spare right now by Prince Harry, and he does talk about the press, and I had no idea it was so bad,
yeah.
especially to the royalty. You would think they would have more protection and stuff, but it's fascinating to hear things that happened to him.
Oh, I was even reading in the late 2000s, he actually had to leave Afghanistan because he was in the army because
Mm-hmm.
they leaked it in the press that he was there. And I've known people that have gone to war and no one knows what day or time until they call you in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the night and you leave, basically. Like nobody knows what time the flights are and somebody found out.
Mm-hmm. It's
It's
so sad. And yeah, we're definitely going to get into all of that. It's going to be a good one. Um, but yeah, so they got engaged. Good for them, I guess.
yeah, I
Oh
mean
my,
she's
have you ever heard that leaked? um I don't know if he was still married to Diana at the time. I believe he was, or it might have been before they were married. Um, but of him and Camilla having phone sex.
No, that's cringy. I can't listen to that. You know that.
Oh man, I can't play it for you.
Oh, you
It's
can.
not anything graphic. It's
And
like, but it is so cringy.
and it's not a prank because I don't know if I ever told the listeners, but I have extreme anxiety for phone pranks. Listening to them on the radio, sometimes on morning shows, they do that, and I can't do it. Can't. Ooh, gives me chills thinking about it.
What if I send you the script and we just read it?
Okay,
If I can find it. Okay, I'll just send you part of it. Oh my God. Do you want to be Camilla or Charles?
I'll be Camilla.
Okay. I want to know how this got leaked though. That's messed up too. Yeah. Again, we'll get into it in the spare, but
And we're not condoning like people's personal. That's a violation to them, but also this was like 15, 20
oh
years
yes, this
ago.
is very, very old.
Yes.
90s.
Like I wouldn't share anybody's leaked nudes, but I'd probably look at them.
Uh, See, I know that is messed up. And I'm part of the problem. Should I look at celebrities' nudes? No. Have I? Yes.
Because it's so hard not to. Because you want to know what
Right.
people are talking about.
Well, and it's just morbid curiosity.
It is.
All right, so anyway, you know that I'm Charles, by the way, for our listeners. Anyway, you know that's the sort of thing one has to be aware of and sort of feel one's way along with it, if you know what I mean.
Mmm, you're awfully good at feeling your way along.
Oh, stop. I want to feel my way along you, all over you, and up and down you, and in and out,
Oh,
particularly in and out.
oh, that's just what I need at the moment.
Is it? At this point, the scanner enthusiast speaks over the couple. Oh, to record the date. That wasn't supposed to be read. Okay, so you're next.
I know that would revive me. I can't bear a Sunday night without you.
Oh, God.
It's like that program, Start the Week. I can't start my week without you.
I fill up your tank.
Yes, you do.
Then you can cope.
Then I'm all right.
What about me? The trouble is, I need you several times a week.
Mm, so do I. I need you all the week, all the time.
Oh, God. This is the cringy part that made me want to share this. Oh, God. I'll just live inside your trousers or something. It would be much easier.
What are you going to turn into? A pair of knickers? Oh, you're going to come back as a pair of knickers.
Or, God forbid, a Tampax. Just my luck.
You're a complete idiot. Oh, what a wonderful idea.
My luck to be chucked down the lavatory and go on and on forever, swirling round the top, never going down
Oh, darling.
until the next one comes through.
Oh, perhaps you could come back as a box.
What sort of box?
A box of Tampax. So you could just keep going.
That's true.
Repeating
We
yourself.
can stop. Wow, I think I sent you way more than I meant to.
Oh,
But how cringe.
a
I would
Tampax?
want to jump off a cliff.
Now that I heard the Tampax thing, I did. I have heard of it.
Yes.
And I want to apologize to all the people of the UK for my terrible British accent.
Oh, yours sounded way better than mine. So
Oh,
yeah, that's um God bless the newly engaged in 2005.
yes. I do want to say that maybe my British accent is better because I watch Louis Tomlinson and then I repeat him.
Could be. Could
I'll watch
be.
a video of him and then I'll talk just like him.
What did you have next?
Um, so this, I wanted to talk about this. One of the movies that came out in 2005 was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I remember we got money from your grandma and we walked to the movie theater and we saw this together. And it was so funny because of
The one
Johnny
with Johnny
Depp.
Depp, right?
Yes, the one
Yeah,
with
I
Johnny
liked
Depp.
it, and a lot of people didn't.
I did too. I thought it was funny. Of course, the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is very nostalgic and very iconic, but I
Hmm.
really liked Johnny Depp's portrayal, and it was actually closer to the book.
It was. That was really cool.
Yes, and I love the part where he says, "Hello, Starshine, the world says hello."
Yes.
Ugh,
Yeah, he did a really good portrayal of Willy Wonka, who was supposed to be so wacky and out there. And I like how they made the Oompa Loompas in that one.
yes, because it was like one Oompa Loompa that they just like multiplied,
Mm-hmm.
so they were very uniform.
Mm-hmm. It's
Ugh.
cute.
Well, also in 2005, something pretty major happened, and it I heard about it for a very long time. It didn't affect us because we didn't live in that area, but Hurricane Katrina.
Mm-hmm. That was huge.
It was a Category 3 hurricane in Louisiana with top speeds of 140 miles an hour. 80% of the city of New Orleans flooded. Uh,
Wow.
1,577 people died in Louisiana and 238 in Mississippi. And it displaced so many people.
Mm-hmm. I remember there were kids at our school that year or that following school year who were displaced from Louisiana.
Yes, and it upset, you know, well, I want to talk more about the recession later, but it upset the oil industry off the Gulf and it really set things in motion, I think, for the recession.
Mm-hmm.
That also with the war going on because that was still happening in 2005, but
Yeah.
it was very sad. And it
Mm-hmm.
did move inward to Tennessee, Ohio, and Georgia, which I feel like Ohio's pretty far north.
Yeah.
But
It's
it was
huge.
downgraded to a tropical storm in those states.
And it was huge. Like there were celebrities and fundraisers on television, and the infamous Kanye West standing next to Mike Myers saying George Bush does not care about black people
I
live.
I read that. That was the first time he went off script and said
That was just the
something
beginning.
outlandish, and he's gotten crazier. I mean, I can't speak for how he feels or felt about George Bush, but he has said some pretty crazy things in recent years.
It
So
was outrageous. It's not that we agreed or disagreed with him. It was just shocking and hadn't been done much on TV before. And this was years before Beyonce had the best album of all time, of all time. But it kind of makes me, I'm glad that Hurricane Katrina got so much attention and stuff. But when it has happened more recently, like in Texas and Florida and stuff, I feel like it hasn't got as much attention or as much help. And is it because New Orleans is such an iconic city?
maybe. I don't know. Because I know FEMA and like flood insurance is very hard to get. You can't just get flood insurance with
Mm-hmm.
any homeowners or renters insurance. Because I live near a place that flooded quite a few years ago, and I called my insurance company. I was like, "Can I get flood insurance?" And they said, "No, you can only get it through Allstate." I don't know if that's still true.
I
Whoever's
think
contra
so.
yeah, it might still be that contract with FEMA, but you can't just get, and so I feel like a lot of people were displaced because they couldn't rebuild right away.
Totally.
Oh,
Man. Very sad. Yeah, that was terrible. It was very terrible. And it took years and years for people to even get back on their feet.
yeah, and that's the first time I remember seeing like that I remember seeing looting at that scale happening
Mm,
and just people on roofs that couldn't get out
hmm.
in time. It's just so sad to think about that
Very.
because it's not like you can control hurricanes.
No.
Like a bunch of levees failed and the city flooded. Like you can't control the weather. That's what
No.
happened in this area when it flooded. You just can't control it.
Mm.
Ugh. But on a lighter note, one of my favorite shows aired in 2005,
Let
and that
me
was
guess.
what?
Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
That was next on mine.
Yay! Oh,
I need to rewatch it.
I only watched, spoiler alert, until Derek died.
Hmm.
After that, I watched one more season, and then it just kind of was not as good. And I'm not saying that Patrick Dempsey made the show. I feel like the storylines were not as good.
Yeah. Well, Rashawn, what's her name?
Chandra Rhimes.
Chandra Rhimes. I feel like she has her hand in so many different shows now that it probably just isn't getting as much attention as it used to. And, when something's new to you as a writer, like you have that initial burst of like energy and inspiration. But God, how long has it been now? 16 years?
It's like going on its 20th or 19th season.
Wow.
I know. And you can't expect those actors to want to play those characters forever. So
Yeah, it's like a life sentence.
I understand why a lot of those characters have left. So it's just not the same without most of the original characters gone because the only original characters I think are Bailey, Richard, and Meredith.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So Christina's gone and George and Alex, all my favorite people that
Right.
when they brought in Jackson and April and those characters, it kind of revamped the show in its fifth or sixth season and it was fresh and they just haven't been able to recreate that with new characters again.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't watched it in quite a few years, but there are still some episodes that I will sob, and you know I'm not a crier.
Yeah.
But
I definitely need to rewatch it. I watched like the first 7 seasons, I think. And then I just felt like some of the storylines were just feeling dragged out and repetitive. And I love Katherine Heigl. I've loved her since she was a teenager, and I saw her in Wish Upon a Star. I thought she was the most beautiful girl and a great actress, but then she got herself killed on that show, Run in Her Mouth, which seems to be a habit of hers.
yes,
I can
because
relate. Um, but yeah, like you said, it just started changing and I lost interest, but I loved the first seasons. It was awesome to see these young adults living in Seattle where we've lived before, so it was cool. And following their dreams and having to bust their butts to do so, and just the relationships that developed. It was so good. And it was so diverse.
yes, and there were so many iconic like points of view from that show. Like
Mm-hmm.
how it's like narrated at the beginning and the end. There were just so many feelings associated with that, and it really touched me in a lot of ways. Some of
I love
those.
that.
Yes.
A lot of the ones I wrote down from 2005 are kind of the government or governments pissing me off. So I'll just say those together and get them out of the way. But in April of 2005, the Oregon Supreme Court nullified same sex marriages that were performed the year before. So it's like in 2004, they said, yeah, we believe in marriage equality. And then 2005, they were like, psych, all of your marriages are null and void. Can you imagine?
That makes me so angry.
It makes me, yeah, livid and also so sad. And there are people like, we're not past that. There are people right now who are trying to do that. And I've even heard people saying that they want states to make interracial marriages illegal. And you and I are both in interracial marriages.
Yes.
Can you
I,
imagine if that just wasn't recognized in some states?
or told that we were wrong, which I do know that my husband's family, his extended family, they were not very nice to his mother because she is from another country.
It's disgusting. And I can't believe it's happening in 2023. And I couldn't believe that it was Oregon that did that. I remembered other states doing that, but I didn't remember that it was Oregon, and that makes me so sad.
Because I
And
think of Oregon like I think of Washington and California, very progressive.
I think of Oregon as like the most hippie state. Like they let a lot go nowadays.
Yeah, they decriminalized like all drugs, like
Right.
meth and crack. Like
Yep.
that's
And they're very into like social services and things like that too. So yeah, that kind of shocked me. And then in June of 2005, the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, so not states, federally banned medical marijuana, which we know didn't last because a lot of states now have medical marijuana and several states even have recreational marijuana. But that just made me sick. Like it's all about money, not to go off on a tangent, but
it is because when you get in trouble with the court system, they don't tell you the next steps. And I know I had gotten in trouble a couple years ago for something very minor, and I had a fine to pay. I didn't know that I was on a pay they didn't tell me I was on a payment plan, and so when I went to go register my car, I couldn't until
mm-hmm.
I pay because I defaulted on my payment plan because
What?
they just gave me paperwork that said it had to be paid by 6 months probably from the date or a year, I think. And since I had defaulted on my payment plan, couldn't register my car, so that makes my car illegal. That makes they could have put a bench warrant out for my arrest because I had defaulted on my payment. They then I couldn't drive my car legally. So luckily I'm in a place where I just called and they were like, "Well, you need to talk to the district attorney to set up a new payment plan." And I was like, "I just want to pay it." Like, and so I was able
Mm-hmm.
to just pay it and register my vehicle at the same time. But most people aren't able to do that.
Right.
So they want people to get in trouble and not know what's going on and then continue to get in trouble.
So sad. And you're right. Like so many people wouldn't be able to do that. And that is why people get stuck in cycles of poverty. And yeah, it's just terrible. And the US was not the only country having a lot of political changes. We know everything was going on in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq. Like they were having a lot of exchanges of power, but a couple that I found interesting in other parts were the first presidential election was held in Egypt in September of 2005. The first president in Egypt was 2005.
Wow, what did they have before a democracy?
Let's see. I'm assuming kings, but
Oh, I was thinking dictatorship, but I don't know that much about Egypt.
I don't either. But after Moses left,
Besides the Prince of Egypt, yeah.
I was gonna say everything I learned from the Prince of Egypt soundtrack. Well, and just because, okay, so they abolished a monarchy in 1953 and were known as the Republic of Egypt until 1958, and the United Arab Republic from 58 to 61. Oh, I guess there was a lot of British occupation in the mid 1900s, which I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't know that either. I
It
saw
looks like
this.
they had presidents before, but maybe they weren't elected.
Yeah, because it says when did Egypt become a dictatorship on other similar questions that I Googled, and it
Oh,
said three presidents over 6 decades. So,
right.
um, I think they were a dictatorship.
So they basically, we're not going to call you a king anymore. So we can say we abolished the monarchy, but we're not really going to let people vote. You'll be president until you die. Don't worry. Jeez. Kind of like, again, not to get too political, but how long has Vladimir Putin been president now?
Somebody told me he was really sick recently. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that, but
I'm pretty sure it was Vladimir, or maybe it was. Oh no, I think it was Kim Jong Un.
oh,
One of them is really sick. Somebody needs to fact check me.
right.
I don't claim to know a lot about everything. I just know.
A little bit about everything.
Yep.
Ah,
Oh,
yeah, so he's been president. Vladimir Putin has been president since 2012, but before that, he was the prime minister. So they didn't call it that. And he was secretary of security. So he's been in the government a long time.
yes. Oh,
Oh, sad. And then in December of 2005, there were a lot of protests in Hong Kong because they wanted democracy. So there's just a lot of political upheaval going on.
all over the world.
Hmm.
Ugh. I just wish things could be fixed, but I also don't know how that would look. So I'm not gonna sit here and try to say I wish that things were like X, Y, and Z.
Right. I mean, I have ideas, but again, we won't get too political on
Uh,
here.
yeah. And I mean, I just wish that everyone had the same rights everywhere. And that's what that looks like to me.
Well, I will say that I hope I live to see the day where we have like universal citizenship, or at least the US joins a big, like, if we could travel to any country that's in the UN, like
Yeah.
Europe had for a while until Brexit. If you had a passport in any one of those countries, you were free to travel. And I think if it was easier for more people to leave their own country and experience other places in the world, we would be more connected to each other.
I think that's very true.
So we'll see. That would be nice. We could just go to London for the week, not have to get a visa and all that.
That would be so. I just want to go to Europe so bad. I've been to Canada, but I've never been anywhere else outside of the US.
We'll definitely have a European vacation.
Yes, we're doing that Duolingo to get ready.
Yes. I
Whew.
feel like 2005 was a pretty good year for books because Twilight and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire came out.
Oh,
Oh, or maybe it was the movie The Goblet of Fire.
uh, yes, because we saw The Goblet of Fire in theaters together,
Mm-hmm.
and that was magical.
So good. I didn't
No,
read Twilight in 2005, but I loved Twilight when I did read it a couple years later. And The Goblet of Fire is such a good movie.
it makes me mad that it's the shortest movie because it
Is
should be
it?
longer. No, The Order of the Phoenix. I think The Order of the Phoenix is the shortest.
You know, it should have been shorter.
Prisoner of
Chamber of
Azkaban.
Secrets. I hate that one.
Oh, I love The Prisoner of Azkaban. It's not my favorite, but I do like The Prisoner of Azkaban.
It is good. I was watching that last night.
My favorite is Deathly Hallows Part 1.
So good.
Oh, love it.
And we had such a crush on Robert Pattinson. And little did we Who would have thought? We loved him as Cedric Diggory, and then he became Edward Cullen.
I know. I remember I had a little bit of money and I got a Cedric Diggory shirt from Hot Topic on clearance, and I wish
Mm-hmm.
I still had it.
Oh,
Oh.
I had a Edward Cullen shirt, and I
Oh.
remember going to see. It might have been the first Twilight movie, and the ticket taker said something like, "Oh, everybody loves that vampire," and I was like, "Just shut up and take my ticket. You wish you were
Yeah.
half the man that Edward never grew to be."
I didn't read Twilight until after the first movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I did so I watched the movie first and I really liked it. And so I read all the books.
They are well made.
And
I
then I saw
mean,
the
we
rest
could,
in theaters.
yes, we could go deep into Twilight and Stephanie Meyer and everything, and maybe we will on another time. But overall, I love them.
Yes.
I don't have too much more for 2005, but I did want to mention that that was the year Elton John entered his civil partnership. He was one of the first people after the UK made it legal,
That's
which was
so
pretty
cool.
cool. And it's sad that he had to wait so much of his life for that to happen. But I also think him being out and open is helped people understand and helped laws get changed.
Yes. And he is such a funny. I've seen some interviews of him. He's so funny and personable. And also, uh, I can't remember if he talked about it or if Eminem talked about it, but he was really there for Eminem when Eminem was getting sober because
Mm,
Elton John had been sober for 20 years-ish.
hmm
And I think that's important to have people that will stand by you even if you fall a little bit. And, I know there was like controversy with Eminem using derogatory slurs, but then
hmm
he did that performance with Elton John at the VMAs and
Iconic.
really iconic. I think
So good.
the early 2000s had some really iconic VMA performances.
It did. It really did.
Oh,
Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera making out with Madonna, Eminem and Elton John singing together,
and
Britney
also,
Spears dancing with that boa constrictor,
yes, and also Eminem with well, all like
Slim Shadys.
yes, that's what I was looking for. I was gonna say body doubles, but yes, all the Slim Shadys, like
I
hundreds
forgot
of,
about that.
yes, so many.
So funny. Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah, so good for Elton John. Did you
yes.
have anything else for 2005?
Just that Hell's Kitchen premiered, and I
Oh,
love Gordon Ramsay.
oh,
And
I
I know
love
that
him.
he was already a very established, world-renowned chef, a Michelin star earner, but I find it hilarious. Um, Probably if he yelled at me, I would cry, but I think he's so attractive, and the fact that he can cook, I just watch him cook sometimes, like make scrambled eggs. My favorite video is him on Hot Ones eating hot chicken wings.
Mm-hmm.
He's hilarious. And I just wanted to bring that up because it really did start. I mean, he's had how many different shows?
Right.
Hell,
Many.
uh, yeah. Oh, love him. Shout out Gordon Ramsay. I love you.
That's awesome. Shout out to his family.
Oh yeah. He has lots of kids.
Yeah, he does. That he does.
Oh,
Well, I guess we can move on to 2006, which we both agreed was kind of a lackluster year.
I don't have much written down for 2006 besides Google bought YouTube for $1.65 billion.
What?
Yeah.
So in just a year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that person who created YouTube must be so proud of themselves, as they should be.
I know because it honestly, YouTube has changed a lot since it started, but it really changed the way we consume content.
Totally. And it was kind of like our replacement LimeWire for a while because in the beginning it wasn't too regulated and a lot of people were just uploading music and movies and
Yes. I mean, people still do.
stuff.
I mean, not movies, but you can find any song on YouTube.
hmm
Ugh,
In Jan This was big in 2006. In January, High School Musical came out.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you haven't.
No.
It was surprisingly good, and I can see why it was so popular.
Which
It's not like a new story, same old jock at the high school trying to win the girl, but it was to music.
I just love that they have High School the Musical, the show. Like it's like what is it called? High School Musical.
I don't know.
It's something that it's called High School Musical, the series.
I've never heard of that.
It's on Disney Plus. And I just think that's so funny. I love things that are like ridiculously long, like The Woman Across the Street from The Woman in the Window on Netflix.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I just find those hilarious.
That is funny. So yeah, High School Musical was really good, and it introduced us to Zac Efron, and look at
Oh,
him now.
I know. I saw this like meme. It was like we're getting old. Zac Efron is playing daddy now because he was in a movie
hmm
with like a teenage kid.
It's so true.
I know. Oh, and then also in 2006, Facebook opened to everyone above
Wow.
13, 13 plus, but not just Harvard students anymore.
Oh, so Facebook was available to everyone, and also that year, the first tweet was sent out by the founder, and it just said, "Just setting up my Twitter."
That's funny. Oh,
Man.
and I thought this was funny. The hashtag TBT for Throwback Thursday became mainstreamed in 2006.
No way. Are you serious?
Yes, yes, TBT.
I don't even think I started using it until like 2012.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I
That's
also didn't have an
awesome.
Instagram until 2012.
hmm That's very
No,
cool. In June of 2006, The Devil Wears Prada came out.
oh, I've never seen it.
It's a really good movie, and I did not know it was based on a book, but like a couple months ago, I was looking up books that became movies. And what was really interesting about The Devil Wears Prada, because I'm sure even though you haven't seen it, you know that it features Meryl Streep playing
Yep.
this like kind of bitchy, um, really important magazine editor. And Anne Hathaway gets an internship there and kind of becomes her slave, but like proves herself and works her way up. And what I thought was really interesting was this book was offered a movie deal before the author was even done writing it. And it's because the author really did work for as assistant to the editor of Vogue. So people were ready for all the tea she was going to spill in this book, assuming it was going to be based on real events. And it pretty much is confirmed that it is. So it's really interesting that they began filming and they actually had to stay on her ass about finishing the book because they were like, we can't finish making this movie if you don't tell us how it's going to end. And I just haven't heard of that happening before. Like, how many authors writing their first book get a movie deal before they're even done writing it? Unless you're like famous and it's a memoir.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is controversial, yet brave. I haven't seen The Devil Wears Prada because I don't like Anne Hathaway.
I can see why she is seen as like an annoying know it all. I can relate to her and I think she's beautiful and a great actress, but you're still my bestie. I
I
forgive you.
I think she is very beautiful, but she's not for me. Her acting is not for me.
That's
Very
understandable.
beautiful. I think I watched the first Princess Diaries and it was all right, but there were other movies I'd rather watch.
Fair enough. You might like The Devil Wears Prada though. It has a lot of other good actors in it, and it's funny.
So, also in 2006, The Simple Life was moved from Fox to the E network for its last season, and I wanted to bring that up because I forgot to bring it up when it started. So I wanted to talk about The Simple Life.
Yes, I was thinking of The Simple Life too as we were planning this out. Do you want to tell them what The Simple Life was in case they've never heard of it?
The Simple Life followed Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. I think everyone knows who they are, but Paris Hilton is the heiress to the Hilton hotels, and Nicole Richie is Lionel Richie's daughter as they go across America and stay with families that are very, very working class and they have to learn how to farm or do things that they don't know how to do. And it was just funny listening to the banter of them not really understanding real life for real people.
Yeah, because they were in their early 20s, so neither of them were like married or tied down yet. They were a couple kind of rich. I could, I think you can say they were rich and spoiled, but
Very.
they also showed like their sweet sides in the show, and it was just apparent they were totally best friends who were just having the time of their lives together. And there were times they were being dramatic or like stirring the pot just to be funny. Like I remember one where they were working at a gas station and Mother's Day was coming up and they wanted to get something for the mom they were staying with, and they didn't have any money though because the producers took away their credit cards. They were supposed to be, working minimum wage jobs for everything they had. So they were like, "Oh, does the family have a tab here at the store?" And the store said, as a matter of fact, they do, because this was a farming family who would come and get feed and stuff like that as they needed it and pay it off at the end of the month. So they charged a bunch of stuff to the family's account, like a bird house for the mom and a bunch of other random shit they didn't need, like sunglasses and stupid t-shirts and stuff like that. And they gave her this present on Mother's Day, and the mom was like so grateful and happy. And then she finds out how she actually got it and how the girls paid for it. And Paris and Nicole felt so bad. Paris had her credit card memorized. So she just gave the store her number and said, charge it all to me. I don't even care what the producers say. Like, this isn't right. So there were moments like that where you could tell that they were actually really nice girls.
Yes, and I was reading something fairly recently about how somebody was being very like condescending and mean to Paris, and she was like, "You need to stop. Like, I'm not being funny anymore. Like, you can't treat us like this." Because it was like
Oh,
some guy trying to like act like they were stupid, and she was like, "I'm not stupid. Like, you can't treat me like this." And I just thought it was really sweet 'cause she was standing up for herself and her friend.
heck yeah, good for her. That does ring a bell. Like they were in a bar or something, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great show. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, and I think that was it was on the E network for one season and then it was done, but I don't know if it was canceled or they were just done. That's not something that they could have continued to do forever
No,
or
no,
wanted to
that's
do
true.
forever because it's not like they really needed the money to that they were getting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was very big for us. We loved The Simple Life together.
Oh yeah. I think I even had the first season on DVD for a little bit and I watched it a
Oh,
lot. It was so good.
yes. Oh.
Um, couple I just have random ones, a couple of space related ones.
That's
But have you
okay.
ever heard of Pioneer 10?
No.
So Pioneer 10 was a NASA space probe launched in 1972. And from what I gathered, they sent it into space to gather data, but as well as try to see how far they could get and to try to make contact with other beings or other planets, things like that. And in 2006, they made their final call out and got no response. So the aliens just want nothing to do with us.
I wouldn't either. I think if they came here and saw us, they'd be like, these people are not advanced enough. Look at this archaic thinking.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think I could go into this. I think they've been here before, and I think they left, and they're not coming back until we are way more advanced than we are.
Yep, a lot of people think that.
Oh,
But there's hope because later that month, liquid water was discovered on one of Saturn's moons. And then in December of 2006, pictures from NASA revealed that there may be water on Mars.
that's so cool. I want to go to space.
Me too. Me too. And I think it would be really awesome if we found another planet we could inhabit.
I know.
I mean, some naysayers will say, yeah, we're just going to go there and screw it up too. But, you know,
No.
I want us to explore what we can and learn what we can and learn from the mistakes we've made here.
Have you seen that George Clooney movie where that happens, where everyone fuck ups the Earth and they have a spaceship exploring for another place to live?
No, I think you told me about it though.
It's so good. And like at the time I watched it, which was probably like 6 months ago-ish, I was not watching any new movies, and it really opened me up to watching a lot of new movies. I feel like I have in the past 6 months watched quite a few new movies, and that is the first one I watched, and it was so good.
Yes, that kind of was a turning point, huh?
Yes. That George Clooney movie is called Midnight Sky. It's directed by George Clooney too, but it's also starring George Clooney. But it's really good about space travel and, what's going to happen to the Earth if we don't try to change some things and we use all of its natural resources. So, oh,
Sadly, not too hard to believe, huh?
nope. So, also in 2006, the movie Idiocracy came out. Have you seen that?
I love that movie. As like scary as it is now, it's like a documentary.
It almost is, but it's so funny. It has Luke Wilson, and he's my favorite Wilson. I don't like Owen Wilson,
Yeah,
but it's such a funny movie, but you're right. It is
it
kind
is
of
so
scary
funny.
how closely it's kind of aligning up with some stuff, but
Was he a
hilarious.
soldier? Like, remind me how it goes. He ended
Yes,
up cryogenically frozen, right?
yes, and then the world basically forgot about that, and he was like buried in rubble with like uh I think she was a prostitute that was like working off some like community service by doing like a government thing, and they wake up like 200 years in the future and everything is just gone so far crazy.
And they said it was because like smart people were putting off having babies until they were older and established in their careers, and then it was too late and they were having infertility problems. Meanwhile, like the stupidest people in society were having like five, six, seven, eight babies.
And the world just became like,
Dumber and dumber.
yeah.
All
Oh,
the food was processed and prepackaged because it's like they forgot how to grow food. They were watering plants with Gatorade. It wasn't called Gatorade in the movie, but
yeah, but it was so funny.
it was really funny. I do like that movie. That's a good one.
Yes. Are we moving on to 2007, or do you have anything else to add?
I just had a couple other things I wanted to add. November 19th, the Nintendo Wii was released. And that
Wow.
was awesome because there weren't video games like that before that were motion censored and kind of got your whole body going.
Yes.
So that was
Oh,
really cool. Not that we could afford them in 2006. I didn't have a Wii until like 2009.
yeah, I don't. We never had a Wii, but it's because we got a PlayStation Move like system.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a PlayStation when I got or my husband bought one after we got married and we had like but it was worse than the Wii because like those balls on the sticks, that was so stupid.
Never tried it.
Yeah, I always wanted the Xbox Connect, but we didn't have an Xbox.
Well, and you guys kind of are a PlayStation family.
Yeah, we are. We do have both, but I prefer PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
I
know,
love
and we have an Xbox. So when you're trying to tell me something in Hogwarts Legacy, like, and you're like, you just press square, and I'm like, I don't have a square.
Oh shit.
I
Yeah,
figured it out.
I didn't even think that the Xbox controller doesn't have square.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Well,
Yes.
my last thing for 2006 was on November 30th, South Africa legalized same-sex marriage and became the fifth country in the world to do so, and was the first country in Africa to do so, which I thought was really cool because they were years ahead of the United States, which didn't do it until 2015.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. I want to go to Africa someday. It
Me
looks
too.
beautiful.
Again, we'll talk about that in when we talk about Spare, but Prince Harry is very connected to Africa, and I didn't know that. It's really cool reading about the things he's done and felt drawn to do.
That is interesting because I didn't know that either. I'm excited to read it. I'm
Yes.
listening to another one right now that we'll talk about later, but I'm excited to read that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
All right. So 2007.
2007, the first iPhone was released on January 9th, 2007.
Yes. Oh, they announced it in January, I think, and it was
Oh,
released in September.
okay.
So people had all that time to drool over it, and I know I was.
I know, me too. I didn't get an iPhone till the iPhone 4, but
Mm.
I really wanted the first iPhone. I knew one person that had one when they came out, and it was so cool.
It was. I think I got one in 2008, but it's only because my boyfriend upgraded his and gave me the old one, and it was awesome
Oh, that is really
because
nice.
you could get on the internet. Like, remember the commercials for the original iPhone? It showed them doing the most boring things, which we use our phones in way funner ways now, but checking the news, your email,
Oh,
opening up a web page, just the simplest things now. But back then, phones couldn't do that.
no, not really. I had one of the first gen smartphones. My husband got me one in 2008, but it wasn't quite like an iPhone, but it did
Right.
cool things. You could do cool
Yeah.
things. And I felt really cool because when we met, I still had a flip phone.
And I was gonna say, yes, phones could do that before because there was the like Sidekick and Motorola Razor and stuff. And I did have a flip phone that could get on the internet, but you had to like scroll like you couldn't read everything at once, or it was so slow. And like,
Yes.
yeah, iPhone, they knew what they were doing, so that was pretty cool.
They had Blackberries too. Those were
Mm-hmm.
really big. I never
Especially
had
for
one.
business people.
Yeah. I never had one because I didn't need one, and also I
Right.
couldn't afford one, but um those were really cool. But I always wanted a sidekick.
Yes, it was
I would still use
revolutionary.
one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just downgrade to a sidekick?
Well, they already brought back flip phones, so
Yeah, my boss has, I don't even know what it is, but it folds, but when it opens, they're both screens, so
I've
it's
seen that.
huge. It's
It's
really cool.
awesome.
But I don't want to switch to Samsung.
I know. That's the thing. We're such iPhone whores.
We,
We've tried other stuff, but it's not as good.
no, and I don't want to, I have everything on iTunes. I'm not paying for it again.
That's how they get you.
I know, but I love the interface. Once I'm trying to help somebody with an Android, I'm like, I don't know what to do. The interface is
It's
different, so different.
and it's like stupider. Like it takes three steps to do what the iPhone can do in one.
I know. And there's things I don't even know, like I didn't even know what the iPhone did. Like there's just so many cool things that I find out every once in a while, and I've had an iPhone for what, 10 years besides when I switched to the Galaxy Note and I hated life for 2 years.
Right? Yep, we learned the hard way. Well,
Yes.
also in January of 2007, J.K. Rowling finished writing Harry Potter, and she
I
said she was sobbing as she finished it.
I did read that, and it I was reading an article about how Harry Potter really changed like the children's book publishing world because people didn't want to publish children's books because they
Oh.
didn't think that they would make as much money as other books, and it's the world she created from her brain is so amazing. Even if you compare things that are from other things like Lord of the Rings, it's still pretty original in my book.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And, maybe because of her writing Harry Potter and it being so popular, maybe that's why publishers were willing to take a chance on Twilight or The Hunger Games or Percy Jackson.
Yes. That's so important. And I
Pretty
like the
cool.
Percy Jackson movies, but I've never read the books. So I get why people are upset, but I didn't go into watching the movie with any expectations, so I really liked the movie.
I haven't seen any of the movies yet. I've heard they're really good. I am reading the first one right now with some
Oh,
kiddos, and it's good. It's funny. It's a little darker than I would think most 12-year-old books are, but it's realistic too, because I think we forget how much kids really know these days and how much they've realistically been through.
yes. Well, my next one that I was going to talk about that I think you will appreciate. On February 8th, 2007, Anna Nicole Smith died.
Oh,
We
wow, that was
loved Anna Nicole.
2007.
Hmm.
She
We
had a
loved
very
her.
interesting and very sad life because she died not long after her son overdosed, right?
Yes. And I think, the last months of her life, all she really wanted was to be with Danny, her son,
Mm,
even though she had a baby, which is
right.
really sad. But
It is very sad.
I kind of understand that feeling
Hmm.
of, you know, being so heartbroken that nothing else seems to matter in the moment. And unfortunately, she died, but her show was so funny. I remember watching it with you all the time.
Yeah, if some of our listeners might not know who Anna Nicole Smith was, but she was like a popular model in the early 90s and did some Playboy, but she really got popular after it was found she married this like billionaire, right? I think he was a
Yeah,
billionaire.
he was like a tycoon, like a billionaire tycoon something. Like he was very
Very much
old.
older than her, maybe 50, 60 years older than her.
Yes.
And when he died, she got nothing and she sued his estate. And it was just really big in the news because she's like this platinum blonde, big boob, beautiful, kind of the original Ditz. I don't know if she actually was stupid, but I mean, she grew up hillbilly in the South and poor and clawed her way out of it and was a stripper when she met her billionaire husband. He like fell in love with her as she was dancing. So it was just this crazy story that got her a lot of attention. And when he died, she got half of his ashes or all of them. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But I remember, so she was offered this reality show through what was it called? The Fabulous Life of Anna Nicole,
Um,
or just the Anna Nicole show, maybe. But it was one of the first reality shows like that that followed a celebrity.
yes, it was the Anna Nicole show.
And you're right, it was so funny. It was just her and her dog that would hump everything in this big mansion. Her lawyer was always around, and her best friend slash slave, Kim, who I think was a lesbian who was in love with Anna and willing to do whatever Anna asked. But
Oh,
I mean, she always seemed like she was high,
yeah. She was,
and she was just very eccentric.
yes. She married uh J. Howard Marshall, and he was an American billionaire businessman, academic, and government official. But he was
Wow.
born in 1905,
Wow.
and she was born in 1967.
Well, there you go.
Yes. And she
52
was
years
only,
apart.
yeah, she was only 39 when she died, which I thought she was older than that, but she
Well, she
wasn't.
looked older. So when she was doing her show, she was like she had gained weight. Um, Not obese by any means, but she wasn't her model figure anymore. So that was a big deal. But when she died, she was the face of Trim Spa, which was this very popular diet pill. And she had been taking that for a couple of years when she died. So who knows what that did to her heart and stuff. And also,
Mm,
maybe if she stopped taking it, I would imagine you would want other stimulant drugs.
yeah. And when I have known people that have taken a lot of stimulants and it ages them very fast
Mm,
because you're not sleeping hardly
mm-hmm.
and your body regenerates when you sleep. And it was so sad, but she was so
Very sad.
iconic.
Yeah, and even after she died, the drama didn't end because her lawyer was trying to say that her daughter Danny was his, and then this other guy was saying it was his, so there was a paternity test, and it was the other guy's. And I've seen every now and then he'll do like a magazine article with his daughter, and she's a teenager now.
Wow. Shame on her
Crazy.
lawyer for sleeping with her.
Well, I don't even know if they did or if he was trying
Oh,
to help her, trying to get custody of the daughter because Anna didn't want this other guy to have it. And he knew that.
oh.
But
Okay,
I
that
don't
makes,
know.
yeah, because I don't, I
They
mean,
had a weird relationship anyway.
yeah, because he was her lawyer for a long time, even on the
Mm-hmm.
show. So,
Right.
ugh,
Yeah, that's really sad. But it, I feel, I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive, but I kind of feel like women whose first of all have been through so much traumatic stuff probably deal with moments of not wanting to live anyway, but also when so much of their identity and their fame has come from the way they look, I feel like those kind of women have a really hard time growing older and almost rather would die when they're still young and pretty. Like Trisha Paytas has said that. I haven't heard her say it since she's had a daughter, but she always said she felt like she was going to die young and just become infamous, and that she thought she always thought her destiny was like she was going to be murdered by a fan or something, which is
that's
really
sad.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird to, because I don't see myself old. I know I will get old, but I can't see that far into the future. I don't know what my life will look like. So I know I'll be there. Like I don't have any thoughts that I won't be old. It's just hard for me to imagine it because but I also couldn't imagine myself, at the age I am now 10 years ago.
True.
So it's sad
It
to,
is.
because I feel like sometimes I worry about how I look, or I think I need surgeries or liposuction or face sculpting or whatever, but I'm like, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm really, content with what I see, and I think that's important.
It totally is. I do think loving ourselves is vital to our happiness and well-being.
And I think for a long time I was very unhappy with myself, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I am to the age where I have people around me that love me, that they know who I am. They know the bad and the good, and when you're trying to hide all the bad, it just you pick up more bad. You're like, "Oh, well, I feel this way on the inside, so I'm gonna start picking apart the outside."
Yeah, very true. As RuPaul always says, you can't love yourself.
How
How
in
the
the
hell are you
hell you gonna
gonna
love
love
someone else?
somebody else?
Yes. Ugh, I've been watching a lot of Drag Race at work because, as you know, the company I work for is a fairly new company. I'm helping get it off the ground, but right now we're in kind of a weird area where we're waiting for more things to happen. So I go to work and get paid, and I watch Drag Race.
Awesome. Honestly, a lot of the stuff I have for 2007 is like bombings and multiple shootings, and I don't feel like talking about that. That's a bummer. So we can keep it a little lighter. And
Yes.
in April, Rihanna released her hit single Umbrella featuring Jay-Z, and it went number one for 7 weeks.
Wow. I remember when she was like when Umbrella came out and Disturbia.
Mm-hmm.
Those were some really big songs. And
Yeah, she was like a breath of fresh air, or Shut Up and Drive.
yes.
Loved that.
Ugh,
And this new young black woman
from
making these
Barbados.
banging songs.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved Rihanna.
Ugh,
And that's a classic song.
it is. And every time I think of it, I think of RuPaul's Drag Race, one of the lip syncs, and
Mm-hmm.
it is so iconic because everyone knows it and everyone gets hyped for it, I feel like.
Yes.
Ah. Well, here's something light that I think you'll really enjoy. The Big Bang Theory premiered in 2007.
Did it really?
Yes.
Oh.
I didn't watch it until it wasn't over when I started watching it, but it was very late into the game. Probably season 7 was when I
Mm-hmm.
started watching it, but it's one of my favorite shows now.
It's so good. Yeah, I don't think I started watching it till late 2008. Um, but I just remember it being so smart and so funny. And again, like Rihanna, breath of fresh air, maybe media and entertainment was pulling us out of the 2005, 2006 depressive cloud.
Yes.
Very
Ah,
funny.
and the movie Superbad came out.
Love that.
Ah, that was like one of the first movies with Michael Cera, I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
because Juno came out the same year.
Yep.
So he was very big,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, Seth Rogen was in it, Jonah Hill.
Yes. I do
Ugh.
remember, sorry to admit this, but I remember watching a bootleg recording of Superbad in my college dorm. And it was like someone had sat in the theater and recorded it, but it still looked pretty good. And I thought that was so funny.
It was. We were just talking about it at work the other day about the part where he like has a flashback to like 5th grade, and he was like, "I couldn't stop drawing dicks."
Yes, they're all in his lunchbox.
Yes. Then he like tries to eat the paper.
Funny.
Oh,
I'll talk about
yes.
this more next week, but next week when our memoir madness starts, I wanted to talk about the Seth Rogan um, story collection called Yearbook. And he talks about writing that when he was in high school and how it was kind of based on him and his best friend Evan. And I
Oh,
think that's so cool.
that is really cool. It is a very iconic movie. I love
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rogen. A lot of a lot of comedies that I like have Seth Rogen and or Danny McBride. Um, I think they're both hilarious,
Who's
and
Danny McBride?
he was in the show Eastbound and Down. He was in the James Franco movie Your Highness. Um,
Oh,
Wasn't
yes. Okay.
he has the curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yeah, he was
he was
in
in
Pineapple
Pineapple Express.
Express.
Yes. He was the one of the wheat dealers in Pineapple Express and
He is funny.
oh, so hilarious. He was in This Is the End and he works a lot with Seth Rogen.
Yes.
He was in the Will Ferrell movie Land of the Lost.
Gosh, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yes, I just saw that for the first time a couple weeks ago. Maybe a couple months ago, but it's
Okay.
hilarious. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of iconic movies came out in the late 2000s.
They did. It was a good time for movies. I loved Juno too. I saw that in theaters.
I loved the soundtrack.
Yes, so good.
Oh, and I was gonna say, don't feel bad about the bootleg thing. I know we talked about it before, but I was thinking when I said I had Bring It On, I think it's because my parents bought it from behind the bar where somebody was selling like boosted movies. So,
Burned copies.
no, they were like actually like stolen VHSs,
Oh shit.
but they were like buying them from somebody like that sold them outside the bar.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Super ghetto, but
You
loved
do
Bring
what
It
you gotta
On.
do.
I know. Oh,
This one is sad, but have you ever heard of Madeline McCain?
I
Um,
think so. Was she kidnapped?
yes, and it's still unsolved. Some people call her like the British John Benet Ramsey, but
Oh,
it was huge news in Europe, and I didn't hear about it until years later. But it is so crazy because both her parents are doctors, and she had, I think they're younger siblings, and they went on this family vacation to, was it Spain or Portugal? Oh, yeah, Portugal. And they went with a bunch of their adult friends who also had kids, and they were all staying in like these condos they were renting. And every night the parents would put the kids to bed and all go out to this restaurant that was across the street because they could look out the window and see the apartments, and they would take turns rotating to go check on the kids. Like they would sit and eat and drink for hours just talking together, and would all take turns checking on everyone's kids, which is so fucked up. Like, would you ever leave your kid unattended in another country?
no.
Even if you were across the street, and she was young at the time. Like,
Not even in a not even in the city I live in. Like that we were in a hotel.
exactly.
Like, no.
And so eventually they came back and she wasn't in her bed. And there's just all these conspiracy theories like, did her parents give her drugs so she would stay asleep longer and accidentally kill her? Or was someone watching these tourists and seeing their patterns and just waiting for the opportunity? But all those kids, there were multiple kids there and she was the only one taken. It's just so sad, and it really makes me sad that it hasn't been solved yet.
But oh, I know unsolved things make me so uneasy because I feel like
Hmm.
I have a lot of faith in a lot of things, in a lot of medicine and, you know, in justice, that it just makes me sad when things are unsolved.
Yeah.
Also in 2007, which I don't know why I really loved this show, but I did, iCarly premiered and
Oh.
I loved it. I don't think I watched it when it came out, but I definitely watched it like 2010, 2011. I watched all of it and it's stupid funny to me. And I
Hmm.
just love it. Like I said, I never saw High School Musical. That wasn't really what I was watching at those days, but like I've never seen any of the other ones. I've never seen Hannah Montana or Wizards of Waverly Place, but iCarly was my jam.
There's something to be said for just like cheesy, funny shows like that. And you'll read more about our iCarly when we discuss the Jeanette McCurdy book.
I'm very excited to read that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I had never watched iCarly either, but after I read that book, I watched a couple of the first episodes. And I
And
can see why it
it's
was so
fun.
popular.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't think Miranda Cosgrove is like, I think she tried to do singing for a little bit. I don't think she's a great singer,
Yeah.
but
Well, also in 2007, a show that I really like, Mad Men. Did you ever watch that?
I haven't. I know like Don Draper. Is that one of the people?
Mm-hmm.
I
John
know,
Hamm.
yeah. Um, I know some of the characters and some of the storylines, but I've never really watched it.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those shows that got so popular that you know parts of it, even if you haven't seen it. But it just follows this group of advertisers during the 1960s and all the different problems they had at that time. And it's just such a good show visually. Like all the clothes in it were actual vintage. They wanted to make sure everything was authentic, and it's just cool. I learned history that I didn't know before. And yeah, it was just really cool to see the issues with race and gender. And like, it was completely normal to sit at your office desk at work and smoke a cigarette and drink whiskey in the middle of the day.
Ugh,
It was
sometimes,
much different times.
sometimes I order DoorDash for lunch, and you can add things on, and sometimes it's like a bottle of wine or some White Claw, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have a drink at work, even though I don't
Right.
drink often, but just because
Right.
I know I can't.
You're right. I know what you mean. That's so
Oh,
funny. So yes, man, Mad Men started and The Sopranos ended that year. And Sopranos is a show I've never seen, but kind of like we were talking about, it was so popular that I remember hearing now how it ended. Do you remember that?
the fade to black.
Yeah, it just the screen went black and some people were so upset because they thought their cable went out and stuff
Oh,
because they've been watching this show for years and it just ends with the characters sitting at the table and the screen goes black. That's it, like mid conversation. What a cop out, but also pretty smart because we're still talking about it years later.
yes, we are. 2007.
Let us not forget July 21st, Deathly Hollows came out
Oh,
and it sold 11 million copies in 24 hours, the first 24 hours.
so good. It was such a
So
good
good.
book. It was the perfect ending.
It was. Yeah, I remember we went to Borders the day at midnight when it was supposed to get released and waited in line and there were so many people there. Like we were sitting on the floor just waiting until midnight. And there were so many people that they gave us all wristbands to make sure we would all get a book and they wouldn't let people buy more than two at a time and that just doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, I know.
Where people are so excited for a new book to come out that they're standing in line until midnight.
Or midnight releases of movies. I know they probably
Yes.
still do that, but I just don't feel like it's as hyped up as it was.
Nope, I totally agree. Here's one that I thought was kind of funny. I'm almost done, but you got to mention that on August 17th, Perez Hilton, who used to be way more popular than he is now, like in the mid 2000s, he had the most popular gossip and celebrity website on the internet, pretty much. But he
Yes.
mistakenly announced the death of Cuban leader Fidel Castro. And so many people believed it.
That's kind of great, though.
I know.
Ugh, he was kind of nasty, like towards people, and
He still is. I mean, he's trying to be better because he knows that that's what people want. But yeah, he tried to out gay people who he said he knew were gay behind their backs. And yeah, just so snotty. Like he
yeah.
used to, technology wasn't that great back then. We had just gotten iPhones, right? But he would Photoshop pictures with like cum spraying on celebrities' faces and stuff like that.
Ugh.
Just like in Windows Paint. Or
Oh,
write whore or stuff like
oh
that.
gosh. Ugh.
Oh.
I remember going to the Half-Blood Prince at midnight,
Oh,
and it was so good. Ugh.
that's awesome.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was the movie The Mist came out. Have you seen that? It
No.
was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, I think. Based on a Stephen King novella. Um, but it just has such a it's basically there's an entity that's like killing people and these people are trapped in a supermarket and at the end of the movie they get out and just the story and the ending of the movie is so shocking. I won't give it away because it's very, very shocking, but it's such a good movie.
Oh, I don't know how I never heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you heard the ending, you might have heard
Mm-hmm.
about it because the ending is very shocking.
Hmm.
Um, but such a good movie.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, and it
We
has
got
to do with the government and, you know, it's just really cool.
like conspiracy.
Yeah, like
Oh,
conspiracy and cover up and like how people find
interesting.
out about it and yeah, it's really cool.
Huh. I'll have to look that up.